Hello and welcome to the NBA Minutes to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. We got a lot of scenarios tonight on an 11-game slate with players who are out, questionable, game time decision, lots of that. So, and all the injuries that happened over the past week kind of going to have a big impact tonight as well. So, starting off with the Miami Heat, Hassan Whiteside, Tyler Johnson, both game time decisions. Obviously, Tyler Johnson doesn't make much of a difference for anyone, but Hassan Whiteside certainly does. So, with him being a game time decision tonight, he's ill anyway, so you're probably not playing him regardless. But in all reality, the guy that you're probably looking at there, if he does sit out, is going to be Chris Bosh, who's going to play center against Brook Lopez. And he's coming off of really 4 good scoring games. I mean, his last 7 games, you take out 2 duds against Toronto and Brooklyn in between. He scored over 20 real points in 7 straight games if you take out those 2 right in the middle.
Yeah, he's been really good of late. He was really good Christmas Day. Really good last matchup against Orlando there, 24-10. Definitely could see, that type of game with Whiteside out where he's forced to rebound a little more. And I think 24-10 is a pretty good number for him. But if Whiteside does sit, I think Brook Lopez is actually the biggest beneficiary just because of his usage rate down low and also just not drawing one of the better shot blockers and defensive presence guys in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely a situation to monitor. Bosh, not a guy I'll be playing much of unless that happens. But like you said, Bosh, Lopez, both those guys get big bumps. Eric Bledsoe, out. We don't know how long. Potentially till after the All-Star break, they say now. So obviously Brandon Knight going to be a guy who takes on some extra usage and some extra minutes as well. He's played 41 and 38 last 2 games. Obviously, Bledsoe was around for that first one there. But he's reasonably priced on both sides, right around $7K, facing off against a Cleveland team that does have Kyrie Irving back, but he's still playing limited minutes. So really the guy that's going to take a big boost here is going to be Devin Booker, who not official yet, but likely that he slots into the starting lineup and played 20 minutes last game. But you imagine that he's going to be probably in the upper 20s, probably not quite to the 30s range yet, but should see a decent amount of minutes, and he's just about minimum everywhere tonight in this matchup.
Yeah, I really like him tonight as like a nice pump play shooting guard. Really scoring reliant, but I mean, he has been shooting the ball really well this season when he's been on the court, 58% from 3, 48% from the field. So he's been solid. I think Cleveland really hasn't defended guards well enough to really keep me off anyone. So I think Booker's a pretty solid pump play.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as we look at Darren Williams, he is game time decision / questionable for tonight. Obviously, it's been hamstring strain where he's been out. JJ Barea has been an absolute beast since he's gone down. So obviously, if he sits out, you're playing JJ Barea as a great cash game punt play, nice tournament play even the way he's been going, and hasn't just been scoring either. 16 assists in the 2 games there. So he's a guy who's really cheap. If Darren Williams sits out, you like him quite a bit still, and he's going to see big minutes. But if Darren Williams does return, even in limited minutes, that kind of takes away JJ Barea from me completely.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Just because his prices come up to a little bit more of a range where you need him to get starters minutes to really produce because he's 5K on DraftKings here. So you definitely want him to see over 30 minutes and kind of produce like he has been. So if Duran does play out, I'm definitely off of him. But Borea's still on my radar if he sits.
Yeah, definitely. And then another guy who is likely to return to the starting lineup tonight did make his return finally from injury last game. Played just 18 minutes against Milwaukee. DeMarre Carroll. Tonight's matchup is, it's an okay one. I mean, Chicago is a team that doesn't defend wings particularly well. They're not anywhere near the defensive team that they once were, but he's not really a guy that's in play. More so it takes a little bit away from offensively from guys like Terrence Ross, who's pretty much worthless now as far as minutes go. Maybe DeRozan and Kyle Lowry take a little bit of a hit offensively, but he's not a big usage guy anyway. So really it's just taken away from Terrence Ross, who was a value play, at least an okay value play there for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, if he does get starters minutes and plays a little bit more, it kind of just takes away from whoever's playing the 3 in Chicago, just because Carroll's more known for his defense than anything, which has been moronic over the last 2 games. I believe he slipped into the starting role. So, I mean, that would just kind of take me off him if I was even a non-moronic in the first place.
Yeah. And then another guy on that Raptors side, Jonas Valanciunas, is expected to play tonight. Of course, we don't know if he's going to start or not, but either way, not likely to see big minutes, probably less than 20 no matter what. So another one of those situations where it doesn't really, not a guy that you're going to play, but a guy like Bismack Biyombo, who's been a very popular value play, especially on FanDuel. He's a guy who's been playing very well. I mean, his rebounding numbers have been off the charts, but that's a guy that Maybe if you want to still take a shot on him in a tournament, because he's still probably going to see a lot more minutes than Valanciunas tonight, but certainly not a guy you would ever go near in cash games now.
Yeah, definitely with you there. I mean, Bimel's been really good, rebounding well, and his blocks per game have just been phenomenal. So I guess, fantasy points per minute, well, he's been really pretty good lately. But I mean, if he does kind of play in that 25-minute range, you really got to hope he blocks some shots and actually gets a couple offensive putbacks, or else he's not going to be hitting the value you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And on an 11-game slate, I mean, you don't want to force guys like that. Rodney Hood, now with the injury, looks like a broken or fractured leg now for Alec Burks. So Rodney Hood going to be a guy who's going to take on a little bit bigger of a role. He's a decent usage guy anyway. Should see big minutes. Has played 33, 35, 37, and then 26 minutes his last 4 games. Not a guy with huge upside, but a guy that you feel pretty safe projecting him in the mid-30s in minutes and probably, mid-20s in fantasy points tonight against a Philly team that is historically awful.
Yeah. I mean, he's been averaging 25 DraftKings points over the last 4 games there. Like you mentioned, he's been playing bigger minutes. So, a matchup against Philly is one to really look at. But obviously, we're not going to load up on Utah anyway. But I mean, he's a good spot for a cheap shooting guard.
Yeah. Derek Favors, another injury concern on that same team. Obviously, sat out the last game, dealing with back spasms. He's questionable for tonight. So guys like Hood and like Gordon Hayward going to see a little bit more of a bump if Favors can't go. Hayward's going to see his upper 30s in minutes either way, but coming off a huge game when Favors sat last time out against the Clippers at 28, 6, and 5 with 2 steals. So that's a guy that is going to be a guy I consider in cash games anyway, but if Favors sits, I mean, he's a guy that I'm going to be playing a ton of.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I really like Hayward, especially with kind of like guys like Paul George, Kawhi possibly in the blowout, same with LeBron. Paying up, if they just kind of get to that 40 to 45 range, not really the numbers I want from guys of their price. So I think Hayward's kind of that mid-tier guy who can get you those numbers tonight.
Yeah, agreed there. Jahlil Okafor, Brett Brown said he does not expect him to play today. He's not officially out. Probably just about doubtful for right now, we would say. So he's a guy that, another reason why we could potentially see Utah kind of run away with this one, because he's been their most consistent player, really. So a guy like Nerlens Noel, who's played either 27 or 31 minutes exactly in the last 5 games. He's had a couple good games, a couple down games, but you imagine he's going to have some decent upside here, especially if Favors sits and Okafor sits. Nerlens going to be a guy that, not a great offensive player, but probably going to take a couple extra shots there down low, and so he always kind of contributes in the peripheral categories anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I really like him at DK with that double-double bonus. He got 37 fantasy points last time out, and if Okafor does so, which it looks like it is, I think this game's kind of sneaky for if you want to take different shots at. Obviously, you're not loading up, but if you want to take shots at guys like Noel, Hayward, Hood, they're going to definitely help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Joakim Noah, obviously sitting out here for a couple weeks, maybe even longer. So that's been opening up some big value for guys like Taj Gibson, who's played 33 or more minutes each of the last 3 games. Pau Gasol, a guy who's still pretty overpriced on FanDuel, but a great price at center on DraftKings. He's played 38 minutes each of the last 2 games, and point per minute basis, I mean, he's been a borderline top 10 player in the league. The concern with him's always been he's been playing low 30s in minutes, but if he's going to see upper 30s, potentially close to 40 minutes if this one stays close, then GPP only easily at 8,900 on FanDuel, but that DraftKings price at 76 at center is pretty enticing tonight. Yeah,
I really like Gasol on DK. I mean, that's a great price for him. I mean, it's weird because he's been priced about there all season, even though he's been one of the better centers on the board. But hey, I'll keep playing Pau there all day.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll mention a couple other guys we like a lot as we go through here real quick. Chris Paul is a guy who's just been tremendous. Obviously, Blake Griffin out, so he's going to take on a little bit bigger of a role there at the point guard position. Brandon Knight, we kind of mentioned there as well. And then Ish Smith, back with the Sixers now, had his first game and weren't exactly sure what to expect, but 31 minutes, 14, 2, and 5. That's about what Ish Smith does. He kind of just fills the stat sheet just enough. Not quite a great point per minute guy, but if he's going to see 30 minutes, he's a guy you definitely got to consider at his cheap price.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when Drew Holiday was out and New Orleans didn't really, and Tyreek Evans was out. I mean, he was playing really good, and he was a solid basketball player for New Orleans there, and somehow they said, hey, we don't want you anymore, then let him go. But, I mean, I'll take him at this price. I think Utah's been I mean, average, I guess, kind of subpar against guards this season. So I really don't mind the matchup for his price. And he had a 25% usage rate in that first game with Philly. So shot the ball 15 times. I mean, he's one of your better value guards tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were wanting to play J.J. Barea, you can kind of pivot. He's a little bit different at price, but not much. Pivot over there if Darren Williams does play. Shooting guard, there's some interesting options. Of course, Dwayne Wade had a big game against Brooklyn the first time. He's played well recently. Still not a huge minutes guy. The guy with the best matchup is Klay Thompson, obviously, against the Sacramento team that's horrible against shooting guards, but obviously blowout concern there. We know the Warriors against the Kings team that just looks lost at times. They certainly could blow this team out of the water in the first half if they want, so there's concern with Klay Thompson, but he's not going to find a better matchup this season.
Yeah, I really like the matchup. I mean, we've known for the past few years of playing NBA DFS that you want to play shooting guards against the Kings. And although Thompson hasn't been great against him this season, he's only averaged 25 points, fantasy points against them in 2 games. For the price, I mean, it's okay. More so on FanDuel because 7,300 is a little bit steep for him on DK.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Small forward options, we already mentioned Gordon Hayward, of course. Outside of that, I mean, I'm probably going to be paying down, but you've got Kawhi Leonard, 15-point spread. Of course, he's probably going to get his 35 to 40 before that happens, but you just don't see any way that Minnesota keeps that one close. Paul George has been really bad. 21 of 71 from the field last 4 games. Still had a decent floor, not relative to his price, but considering how poorly he's shot. So if his shot is actually going down sometime, I mean, he's still playing big minutes, mid to upper 30s most games. And this game has, a close spread and a fairly high total. So if you feel okay about paying up, which I don't mind paying for Paul George. Obviously, ever since DeMar Carroll has left Atlanta, they're very susceptible to wing players. But Paul George, he's a borderline guy for me. I like that his price is down, but his production's been down too. So he's a guy I'm waffling on in cash games here. But I feel comfortable with him. His 25-point floor, you just hope he gets to the 45 tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, if it was a smaller slate, I'd be a little more comfortable with Paul George. But I just think Gordon Hayward's kind of my favorite cash game, small forward tonight. And I think Paul George, maybe a little more GPP, but I mean, I can't argue at his price throwing him in cash as well.
Yeah, and Chandler Parsons as well. I mean, guy with 30-plus fantasy points, 3 of his last 4, possibly back in the starting lineup tonight. I mean, he's a guy that's just a crazy good value on FanDuel especially. Yeah,
definitely. I'm with you there. I mean, 4,500 and even though he's not starting, he's still playing around that, mid-30s for minutes, 3 of the last 4 games there. So don't let that bench roll really fool you. He'll still see minutes.
Yeah, I mean, when healthy, he's arguably the best player on that entire team. So,
whoa, Dirk, whoa.
Well, I mean, right now, come on. Dirk doesn't play enough minutes to be the best player right now. But Dirk is a great cash game too. No offense to Dirk there. But power forward, I mean, Anthony Davis. Against Orlando, obviously Orlando is about an average team in just about every way. You got to like Anthony Davis. He's been great recently. Draymond Green, despite the potential blowout, we know the drill with him. He still gets run and he still produces. I mean, shots, block shots, steals. The guy's scoring a ton of points now. 15 rebounds in his last game. I mean, the guy is just having a ridiculously good season, and I don't mind playing him in any format tonight, even with the big spread.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about Green being our favorite play, even if the games are blowouts, just because he pads his stats there. So really like Green at his price. I think Paul Millsap, his price has come down a little bit, kind of an intriguing tournament play. I know you're a guy who he makes you a little bit mad every now and then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, coming off a great game against New York where he put up nearly 50 DraftKings points, definitely has a pretty high ceiling, and his price isn't too bad either.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, Taj Gibson, of course, going to be the popular value play. And then last position, of course, center. A lot of guys in good spots. We talked about Brook Lopez and Chris Bosh potentially. But Nikola Vucevic just continues to be great. New Orleans has struggled against centers. Kind of just everything goes together for the potential for him to have a big game here. You got to like that. And then Marcin Gortat, it's not an ideal matchup against the Clippers and DeAndre Jordan, but I mean, it's with Brad Beal out, it's John Wall, and then it's Gortat, and there's everyone else is kind of just a role player.
Yeah, I really like Gortat. I think him and Vuce are definitely my 2 favorite, and obviously Gasol on DK where he's eligible, but not a lot cheap that I'm in love with, so I think I'm definitely paying up at center.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So that'll wrap things up here for us for the Minutes to Win It. Find us on Twitter at DFCafe, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out the rest of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.